Okay, you can begin.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, class. Welcome to Chapter 6, Integrity and Moral Purpose. The presenters are Chantal Thomas and Alicia McBurney. Chapter overview. This chapter includes 1, a discussion of the process of creating and sustaining ethical organizational environments. 2, an analysis of the moral dimensions of transforming leadership theory, and an examination through behavior modeling. Practical application of ethics and leadership are highlighted using ethical decision-making models. Definition of integrity. Integrity means that a leader's character is whole, integrated, and grounded in solid moral principles, and he or she acts in keeping with those principles. A person with integrity behaves ethically and does the right thing, even behind closed doors. It is a personal quality of fairness that we all aspire to. So this is integrity, traits of integrity. We chose this picture with the lion with integrity because that is actually, well, we remember when, so when you was actually asking us what animal we wanted to be. And yes, Chantal chose a dog, but we thought a lion was more strong on the field. So this is basically a representation of her. Integrity is one thing you cannot afford to lose. You can give it away or sell it, but you can't buy it. Without integrity, you become nothing and will have nothing. By Michael Josephson. The first one we have there is express gratitude when other people help you. People with integrity recognize that their friends, co-workers, and community make their lives better. They show gratitude by always remembering to say a simple thank you. When someone helps them, they may also take the time to write a thoughtful note to a coworker who helped them complete an important project. The second one, value honesty and openness. A person with integrity doesn't run away from difficult conversations or situations. If they have a conflict with other person, they're open about it, meaning they don't hide their feelings only to become resentful later on. They are also honest about their time, abilities, and preferences. No matter the situation, integrity ultimately means your moral principles are more important than your personal comfort. And honesty can be uncomfortable sometimes. Third one, are responsible and accountable for your actions, good and bad. If you have integrity, it means you're accountable for your actions, even when you miss the mark. It's easy to take ownership when you do something well. However, integrity really comes with play when you face failure. If you want to live with integrity, and grow personally, you must learn to admit when you make a mistake and then choose to learn from it. Are reliable, patient, and flexible, even when unexpected obstacles show up. You may not think of boundaries when you think of integrity. However, living in integrity means living at peace with yourself and your values and relationship boundaries, whether it's with your coworker or your family. For example, if your friend wants to call you during work, but you need to finish a project, you have to set boundaries and let them know to call you later on. Chantel, there's one more. Bring it back. Respect yourself and others around you, no matter where you are. People with integrity overcome life's obstacles with resilience. For example, let's say they lost their job. They may feel hopeless or frustrated at first. However, a person with integrity will eventually see that this challenge is just another opportunity for growth. With a bit of patience and flexible expectations, they can take positive actions. Right. So we have some leaders with integrity here. The first one is Condoleezza Rice. She is a female African-American secretary, and she quoted, "The first step for a leader is to be right with yourself. Integrity is the basis of leadership." Then we have Brian Tracy, Canadian American motivational public speaker, and he quoted, "Integrity is the most valuable and respected quality of leadership. Always keep your word." The other one we have there is Pearl S. Burke. And she quoted, "Integrity is honesty carried through the fabrics of the being and the whole mind, into thought as well as action, so that the person is completely in honesty. That kind of thing I put above all else as an essential to leadership." And then we have the ultimate Martin Luther King Jr., African Baptist minister and activist. He quoted, "May I stress the need for courage, intelligence, and brave leadership. Leaders of sound integrity. Leader not in love with publicity, but in love with justice. Leaders not in love with money, but in love with humanity. Leaders who can subject their particular egos to the greatness of the cause. Next slide. So here we have creating and sustaining an ethical organizational environment. Understanding and applying ethical theory and models that operate from organizational values or codes of conduct, as well as being aware of your own moral development and that of others in your organization, help to create and sustain ethical organizational environment. And here we have a picture of an eagle, which represents the animal that I chose with integrity. And it quotes, "Real integrity is doing the right thing, knowing that nobody's going to know whether you did it or not," by Oprah Winfrey. Nash, 1990, proposes 4 qualities that are necessary for participants to advance ethical standards in an organization. The first one we have is critical thinking skills to analyze and survey the ethical components of a problem or dilemma. Second one, a high degree of integrity to stand up for your personal and professional ethics. Third one, the ability to see situations from other perspectives. In other words, showing concern for others. And 4, personal motivation to do the right thing. Next slide, Santa. It is important when using these ethical decision-making models and principles that you prepare to receive criticism, team members revolt, and perhaps experience a decline in membership. Not everyone in an organization has a moral orientation or is prepared and willing to do the right thing. Some would prefer to take the easy way out, do what is more economical, or take the path of least resistance. Nash's idea of having personal courage is of ultimate importance when trying to make the right decision for good of an organization in the face of opposition from the membership. Part of the leadership process is to fully explain to others the problem at hand and the basis of the action or decision. In the 4 qualities of leadership, when translated into behavior, and action, help an ethical organizational environment. When you identify a problem as having moral or ethical implication and involve others in the decision-making process, You provide another example of how an ethical environment is established. Several strategies and interventions can be used to create and maintain an ethical climate in a group or organizational setting. The process of doing so should be intentional and include all the elements of the relationship leadership model and the dimension of knowing, being, doing. All applicants, all participants, positional leaders and members alike should be equally empowered to set a tone in the organizational climate that will foster and support ethical and moral actions and sensitivities. The organization's mission or the group common purpose should be the driving force for the identifying its value. Participants should identify and operate from a shared set of core values that guide the organization's activities, actions, and decisions. These core values will enable individuals to work toward a common purpose and provide a common understanding of the organization's principles and standards. Members are empowered to hold each other accountable. Sorry about that. Very much. Thank you. In moral talk or dialogue and work together to sustain an ethical environment. Appointing one person to be the group's.
Hold on a minute. Sorry about that. Alicia, are you hearing me? Okay.
Yeah,
so from participate, you're continuing?
Yeah.
Okay. Continue.
Participate in moral talk or dialogue and work together to sustain an ethical environment. Appointing one person to be the group's ethicalist or standard barrier will not achieve the same ethical climate as when all participants are concerned with doing what is right. In fact, it may be counterproductive for a leader to handle ethical dilemmas alone or in isolation from other members of the organization. The organizational climate of Emron. A corporation whose detailed 64-page code of ethics Documents were eventually sold on eBay with this one word description: unopened. Kidder 2005, page 203. In the early 20s, the Enron board wavered many of its ethics policies, including allowing Andrew Foster, its chief financial officers, to work for Enron and another entity in what was clearly a conflict of interest for the company. After the collapse of Enron case demonstrates not all the leadership is good. Our learning about leadership can come from both positive and negative exemplars. Kellerman 2004 and Lipman Blumen 2005 address the nation of bad or toxic leaders and their resulting negative consequences. Kellerman divides bad leadership into two categories. Ineffective leadership is defined as the failure to achieve a desired change. Someone can be an ineffective leader, but be considered as an ethical leader, even though the goals were not accomplished, the person still lead with integrity. Unethical leadership is defined as failure to distinguish between right and wrong. Unethical behavior should be addressed, but in a different manner. Lipman Blumen describes toxic leaders as those who engage in numerous destructive behaviors and who exhibit certain dysfunctional personal characteristics. Some examples of behaviors and traits associated with toxic leaders: leaving their followers worse off than they found them, violating the basic standards of human rights of their own supporters as well as those of other individuals and groups they do not count among their followers, misleading followers through deliberate untruths and misdiagnosis of issue and problems. Reckless disregards for the cost of their actions and others as well as to them. So these are 5 ways to demonstrate integrity in the workplace. 1, you have respect others' opinions. Honoring your colleagues and employees' opinions and ideas, even if you disagree. Instead of turning down an idea, try to see things from another perspective first. Why you think they choose that idea. Can even ask for more insight on the topic. Address conflict honestly and respectfully. Workplace conflict can quickly turn into a sticky situation and may even lead to termination if not handled calmly, honestly, and respectfully. Make sure you understand what the conflict is really about. Do you disagree with your manager's decision and why? Once you're clear on the root of the conflict, validate feelings, apologize if needed, and try to reach a solution. If you can't find a solution, ask for support from a manager or HR if needed. Be a role model. Modeling integrity is a powerful way to be a change maker at your organization. This means taking responsibility, for your decisions and actions, especially when you make a mistake. Being honest and respectful, keeping your promises, and staying engaged with your work are crucial. As a role model, you'll not only encourage other team members to follow suit, but you'll also promote positive company culture. Being ready to work. Going to work prepared and ready to tackle your responsibilities is essential to integrity at work. When you get to work, grab a notepad and plan your schedule for the day. What you do need to accomplish by the end of the day. Who do you need to speak with? Once you're set on your goals for the day, make sure you have all the tools you need to complete your work. Then start taking action and check off the items on your to-do list one by one. And the last one, report unethical behavior. Seem uncomfortable to report to your colleagues, employers, or managers for unethical behavior. However, it's a vital part of holding your company accountable to the moral standards they've set in place. When reporting unethical behavior, be as specific as possible. Explain who offended company policies, how they offended them, and where, when you saw the action take place. Next slide, Sandra. And quote, I think being ethical is absolutely necessary when talking about leadership. You have to have some moral code from which your ideals come. If you act unethical in any way, you are hurting not only yourself, but those who look up to you. In the real world, not everyone operates in an ethical manner, but I truly believe that those who do end up being the winner in the long run. And this is quoted by Tim Slaughter. He was president of leadership, development, and a former member of the President's Senate at Texas A&M University. Do you know in 2003, Gallup poll on moral values in the United States showed that only 22% of Americans believe moral values in this country are excellent or good. 77% describe them as poor or fair. Gallup poll, Social Series, 2003, page 6. When respondents were asked if moral values in this country were getting better or getting worse, 67% commented that they were getting worse, page 7. These indicators point to the growing number of Americans who believe that moral climate in the United States is deteriorating. In a survey conducted by Ethics Resource Center in 2005, 50% of American workers observe unethical conduct in their workplace. And this is from Ethics Resource Center as well, 2005. Next slide, Chantal. Results when engaging in questionable, unethical behaviors. Martha Stewart, CEO of Omid Living, severely damaged her company over the cover-up of an insider trading scheme and received a federal prison sentence. The late Ken Lay, former CEO of Emron, Deloitte shareholders and others, and destroy his company just before his sudden death in July 2006. He had been convicted of conspiracy and fraud and faced a minimum sentence of 45 years in prison on those charges and 120 years in a separate case. Lobby jacked Abramoff received 82 million from Indian tribes he represented, funneling the money to political leaders, including Congressman Tom DeLay, Benjamin Ledena, and the resign for spending more than Ledena, the president of the African University, was forced to resign for spending more than 500,000 of university funds on questionable expenses, such as a lavish engagement party for his son. These examples of ethical collapse produced career-ending moves for each of these leaders. Although Martha Stewart was made a comeback since she was released from prison, her image and reputation were tarnished. And this is another quote. Integrity is connected with respect. Without integrity, you cannot gain the respect of your fellow members, and without that respect, organizational goals are not obtained. The integrity of leaders also reflects the integrity of the organization and its members. Because the leaders are the most visible people in the organizations, the actions and values reflect on all of those who are involved. And this is from Melissa Scott Lutzer, an accounting major at Kent State University, is president of Students of Scholarship and a member of Beta Alpha SPSI Accounting Honoree. Individuals committed to leading with integrity face their own dilemma of what to do when their values and principles clash with the organization standards. This is a very difficult situation and offers only three choices. 1, ignore or put up with the situation. 2, address the situation and work to change the organizational climate into one that is ethical in nature. And 3, leave the organization. I will pass you on to Chantel, which will continue on the topic moral purposes.
A value that, when expressed, appeals to the innate feeling held by some individuals of what is right and what is valuable is the definition of what moral purpose is. The moral dimensions of transforming leadership theory. According to Burns, 1978, leaders and followers boost one another to higher levels of morality and motivation in the process of transforming leadership. As the leaders and participants' behavior and ethical ambitions are elevated by mutual influences on one another, they achieve moral dimensions. Persuasion, which is a desire to alter something, and multidirectional influence interactions between leaders and participants are all required for transformational leadership to occur. Now, on our second point, transformational leaders express values or ideas such as peace, justice, fairness, liberty, equal opportunity, and the general welfare of people. Participants in any leadership scenario can and frequently encourage leaders to higher ethical purposes. Through these specific behaviors, leaders, superiors, participants, peers, followers, and others affect these ideals. The essential act of the leader is to convince people to become aware or conscious of what they are feeling, to feel their actual needs so passionately, to define their values so profoundly that they can move to purposeful action. This theory is also concerned with the interaction and influence of leaders and followers. Therefore, this symbiotic relationship is described by Burns 1978 as an interaction between power and shared values. He states that, and I quote, "It is a person's ability to become a leader armed with principles and rising above narrowly defined self-interest that endows that person with power and may eventually turn both leaders and followers into individuals who jointly adhere to model values and end values." 2 of the 7 traits used by Tichy and Devana, 1986, to describe changing leaders are related to ethical and moral elements of leadership, which is for an individual or transformational leader to be courageous and value-driven. Other characteristics of transforming leaders are the ability to confront the truth, even if it's uncomfortable, having a healthy ego to defy peer pressure, and having positive self-esteem, which is not needing to satisfy others to gain their approval. All these characteristics are vital components of moral purpose. Now we move on to behavior modeling. According to Sims and Lorenzi, 1992, participants are more likely to emulate the behavior of another member or leader if they admire or identify with that individual. Organizational models can elicit ethical or immoral conduct, since exemplars or models have a considerable impact on ethical decision-making in businesses. Let's take, for example, a student president of the African American Student Union who wants everybody in the organization to feel empowered. They will practice sharing power and authority with leaders and members, and will create chances for members to make important contributions to the organization. Seeing the president and other organizational leaders leading with integrity and moral purpose empowers committee chairs and members and involves them in the process of decision-making. Also, according to Chalef, 1995, participants also serve as role models for leaders' ethical consciousness. For instance, while choosing whether to fire an employee who was absent from work for 2 days in order to care for his physically disabled parent, the members of a student-owned food co-op persuaded the student manager to consider the employee's feelings. The members urged the manager to take into account the employee's self-education and the fact that he was the only relative able to look after his parents. Therefore, they recommended that the manager alter the employee's work schedule to provide him time to assist his parents while still keeping him on staff at the co-op. By seeing themselves in the position of the employee and understanding the effects of dismissal, the members were demonstrating how empathy could be applied. Moreover, modeling may have external implications that transcend organizational borders. For instance, General Mills contributes major resources and services to efforts focusing on community development, women, and minorities, and the Dell Computer firm is renowned as a pioneer in the sector for recycling initiatives. However, there are instances of corporate negligence from organizations like Nike and Walmart, whose products are produced in sweatshops that use child laborers in underdeveloped nations. Both of these firms have a history of adopting discriminatory hiring and promotion practices based on race and gender. These examples, both good and bad, show how participant leaders and role models have an impact on the ethical atmosphere of organizations. When leaders or participants address ethical matters or bring up ethical conundrums that can be resolved by an exchange of various viewpoints, this is another example of modeling. So now I have a question for you all. How frequently has someone brought up moral or ethical concerns regarding a particular subject your group is working on during an organizational meeting or in a classroom? It might be challenging to know how to start a discussion regarding moral issues. Yet, discussions that enable individuals to examine the moral intricacies and dimensions of issues or challenges would be beneficial for both leaders and participants. So according to Bird and Waters 1989 and Paddock 1989, when the conversation is utilized to pinpoint issues, weigh options, defend and denounce policies, and justify and explain choices, moral talk can be used as a form of modeling influence. Now we move on to ethical decision-making models. Daily moral conundrums and issues arise throughout the leadership process, which participants and leaders must face and address. These issues and difficulties frequently lack obvious solutions. Therefore,
excuse
yes,
me.
sir.
We've lost
Sure.
your PowerPoint. You just have a black screen.
Really?
Right? All right, it's back
Oh
now.
my.
I think it went to sleep.
Start now?
Yeah, Ring, go ahead.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So daily, let me start over. Daily moral conundrums and issues arise throughout the leadership process, which participants and leaders must face and address. These issues and difficulties frequently lack obvious solutions. Therefore, addressing these issues or confronting unethical behavior is not simply the leader's job. In order to accomplish results for the common good, the relational leadership model emphasizes inclusive and process-oriented leadership, and it is suggested that both leaders and members must be involved in resolving ethical conundrums. While tackling ethical dilemmas, leaders and participants should collaborate in a contemplative, challenging, compassionate, intentional, and consultative manner. A variety of strategies to resolve ethical conundrums can be utilized. For instance, client confidentiality is strictly protected by religious and counseling experts unless a client poses a threat to oneself or others. Several schools include anti-discrimination and anti-sexual harassment policies that serve as behavioral guidelines. Also, rituals in fraternities and sororities act as declarations for organizations' ideals and principles, and students may adhere to an code when taking tests in class. Practical applications. Consider the circumstance. You attend a college with a rigid academic honor code that asks students or staff to report anyone who breaks it. In addition, you lead the interfraternity council. One of your closest friends and a fraternity brother are cheating on a test, which you catch them doing. How would you approach this predicament? Would you abide by the rules and make your fraternity brother the judge? Or would you try to talk him out of cheating in the future after the exam, since you will have to report him and it will reflect poorly on your fraternity? Or do you start a decision-making process that will lead you from the first stage of evaluating the solution? How will your response influence others if you act in a specific way? To the last step of behaving in accordance with your convictions and moral purpose. Do you choose to take no action, thereby acting without moral purpose? This is why ethical decision-making models are crucial, because they motivate people to resolve conflicts for moral reasons and offer frameworks for decision-making and analysis. In order to make wise decisions, one needs to thoroughly analyze all available options, including conducting an ethical analysis. According to Kidder 1995, tough choices are tough choices as those that pit one right value against another. Therefore, by using the four-dilemma paradigm model, Kidder 2005 presented a framework for assessing correct versus wrong decisions, which are justice versus mercy, which deals with fairness and equity conflict with compassion, empathy, and love. Short-term versus long-term, which deals with immediate needs run counter to future goals. Individual versus community. Self versus others, or small group versus the larger group. Truth versus loyalty, which deals with when honesty competes with commitment, responsibility, or promise keeping. In April 1996, for example, David Kaczynski reported his brother Theodore Kaczynski to the police because he believed he was the Unabomber, who is a man who terrorized the nation for more than 2 decades by mailing bombs that killed or permanently injured innocent victims. This specific case illustrates the truth versus loyalty dilemma. The person in this situation who acted in accordance with their moral conviction is David Kaczynski. Even though he knew the distressing cost of knowing that his brother would likely receive harsh punishment, possibly the death penalty if proven guilty. In an effort to convince himself that his brother was not the Unabomber, David Kaczynski exhibited emotionally agonizing behavior. In this situation, or one similar to it, ask yourself, if you knew one of your brothers, sisters, parents, or best friends was a criminal, would you inform the authorities? To help us make these difficult decisions, there are principles for ethical decision making. First, there is end-based thinking. This is what philosophers call utilitarianism, which is best summed up by the adage, do whatever provides the greatest good for the greatest number. Who will be harmed and who will be helped will be decided upon using a cost-benefit analysis. An evaluation of the effects and forecasting of these results are the core of this principle. Then, secondly, there is rule-based thinking, which is based on following only the rule that you wish everyone else to follow is the categorical imperative, according to Kant. It requires you to ask yourself, if everyone in the world followed the same rule of conduct that I do, would that produce the greatest good or the highest value in character? The foundation of rule-based thinking is a duty what we should do as opposed to what we believe will work. This is known as a deontological thought, which is grounded in moral duty. And lastly, there is care-based thinking. The golden rule, which states to treat people as you would like them to treat you. It is an illustration of care-based thinking. With care-based thinking, you may test your decisions by placing yourself in another person's position and envisioning how it would feel to be the victim of your actions rather than the one who committed the act. These three concepts can be utilized when assessing issues and determining the best course of action. And now we will address ethical principles and standards. So according to Beauchamp and Childress, 1979, and Kitchener, 1984, Aristotle's ethical precepts have been modified by many scholars for use in the helping professions. These principles serve as the cornerstone for leading an ethical life and as guidelines for professionals such as doctors, psychologists, and counselors. Moreover, 5 biomedical ethic guidelines were put forth, and Karen Strom Kitchener, who is an education professor, later modified them for use in counseling, psychology area. These 5 ethical principles are respecting autonomy, doing no harm, benefiting others, being just, and being faithful. These ethical principles have several applications in organizational and leadership contexts. By applying these concepts, one should be able to choose the best course of action and consider how your choices may impact other people. To help professionals make decisions and take action, professional associations have code of ethics. Furthermore, the Center for the Study of Ethics in the Professions has compiled over 850 codes of ethics for a variety of professions, which include, but is not limited to, law, government, engineering, the healthcare sector, sports, fraternal, social organizations, and the media. These codes of ethics can shield professionals from pressures that might result in dubious behavior, despite the fact that their value is contested. They serve as a unified statement of the ethics and values they apply to certain professions. And now to conclude this presentation, an individual's moral development, the influence of role models, values-driven leadership, and the organization environment are all important factors in the complicated process of leading with integrity. An essential part of being an ethical leader is challenging conventional wisdom. Additionally, the relational leadership model entails acting ethically to have a beneficial impact on the public, empowering others to lead by example, involving other participants in resolving ethical difficulties, and implementing a process to approach problems that do not have obvious solutions. Leading with integrity and moral purpose is therefore essential to the leadership and ethical process, despite how chaotic and fast-paced our work could be. And now that we have completed this chapter, are there any questions? Okay, so well, if there are no questions, these are the citations. And my colleague, Annalisa, would like to thank you all for your patience and listening to our lecture. Have a blessed evening.